Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is, oh my gosh, it's episode 8. I don't even remember making that many episodes in this season so far for season 2. Today, I'm super excited. I'm doing something a little bit different. I know that a lot of you have actually asked me about my empowerment journey. And so I'm going to, over the next about 6 episodes or so, I'm going to share my journey to empowerment. And I also want to share my insights and things that I've learned all along the way, and how I was also able to do my generational healing work throughout. And also just to give you all some insight into what a childhood looks like, in terms of recognizing when trauma may have started. So you hearing my story may also help pinpoint for you, if you have a similar story as well, or can help you just recognize maybe when your life started to change. So today is actually going to be part 1, again, of 6 episodes. So this one is called A Black Femme Childhood with Ghosts. And I also just want to share really quickly that, everybody's empowerment journey is completely different. There's no two journeys that look alike, and how you become empowered or how you learn to be empowered is also going to be different. So what may have happened to me or what has worked for me may not work for somebody else, but there's probably going to be some sort of connection that might help you empower yourself in a way that is authentic to you. So I also thought it would be helpful, which is why I'm breaking it out into 6 episodes, to kind of go through phases of my life. And so this first one is all about growing up, what my household was like, what I kind of learned, and what really stuck with me throughout my journey to being an entrepreneur that I am today, and having that really fiery voice, that social activist voice, the we're creating change today, not tomorrow kind of thing. Yeah, so hopefully you all enjoy this. Let me know. You can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, however we all connect, or TikTok. So yeah, let's just get started. So I'm going to go all the way back to when I was a teeny tiny little human. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I primarily grew up with in a family that was all female. My sisters, I have 3 older sisters. 2 of them have a different dad. And then my mom remarried after his passing and married my dad. So I have my 2 older sisters and then another older sister, Brittany, who's actually only 2 weeks older than me. So you can do the math on that one. Brittany and I didn't live together, but we've grown really close. But growing up, I was really close with my older sisters. They're about 6 and 7 years older than me. And I spent a lot of time with them. And I feel like not even feel like my dad was in the picture, but like not really that much, or maybe I just like didn't pay much attention. But he was super strict. He was in the Air Force. So he had some very interesting views on how we needed to look, or how we needed to dress, or how we needed to exercise, like really, really controlling, especially with my sisters. So him and I always had a really rough relationship, and I honestly think I came into this world empowered. Like, I don't know how to tell you, like, I knew from the very beginning that, we were just very different humans, my father and I. And I would let him know that. Um, for a long time. Yeah, for a very long time until I was a lot older. I didn't even refer to him as my dad. I just called him Glenn because I felt when I was younger that I didn't have a connection with him and I didn't agree with his ways. So I I did what I thought you should do, which is like not give your power away and be like, no, you don't deserve the title of dad. Being the teeny tiny human that I was. And then my mom was really busy. She worked at the capital of California as like a very high up accountant and ran a ginormous team and worked with a politician. So she was really busy. All of us were in Catholic school at the time. So we lived like a very interesting lifestyle, like very heavily into extracurriculars and like showing up for the community, and not necessarily agreeing with like the teachings in school because we definitely, all of us, got in trouble like speaking out against stuff that happened at school or not agreeing with Catholicism. Um, and when we were home, like my mom always kind of made sure that we had a different lens on the world where it wasn't just we were going to Catholic school and that was just how we were going to live. That was just how we were going to be, thinking 24/7. She had her own beliefs and her own practices. So when we were at home, she kind of gave us the space to be able to vocalize certain things, but obviously doing well in school and looking a certain way and dressing a certain way was something that was instilled in us, and really recognizing that now as an adult of like the deep impact of being a Black person in America and having to assimilate and starting that really young, even with our hair and like how we wore it. But then there's also, eventually my mom was a single mom. So, curly hair takes a lot more time, a lot more patience, but also like knowing how she was raised and not necessarily that curls were talked about a lot and like shampoos and things have changed. So I think there was a lot of different dynamics that shaped the way that I grew up. And so school was important, being a part of the community was important, making sure I got good grades, making sure I didn't cause too many issues being like being myself mostly, because there were times in school where, and I wholeheartedly apologize for this later, but I didn't really understand nuns and like why they covered their hair. And like one nun had their hair out in the front but not in the back. And so being the sneaky ass child that I like opened the back of the veil. Like my mom was mortified. But they were really sweet and explained it to me. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But like, I think that natural curiosity and like energy to figure out the truth came very early. Like that is something that I've always had in me, regardless of like how I was raised. Like I've just have naturally been a curious person. And I was also super smart. So my mom, had a bunch of hooked on phonics things and I would like complete the box in a week. So like I was needing a lot and still need a lot of like stimulation for learning. And then there was like the dynamics of like going to school in a Catholic school, but also having spiritual practices at home that I think really made it interesting for my empowerment journey. I think it definitely made it harder. Because while we did have conversations at home, about being yourself, there was still the sense of like not talking about ghosts or not talking about spirituality in that sense, or not, like it was kind of shamed a lot. And so I think in my later years, I was able to empower myself and really find healing in my spirituality, if that's what you want to call it. I just call it now like it's a part of me, it's a part of my culture, it's just what I do, it's energy. Um, so I think that really slowed down my empowerment journey, because I questioned a lot, and I had to like lock it away, and in a sense like hide my woo woo as people would say. And there was a really hard time where like my sister and I shared a room, and you know, my father would make us sleep with the door open. And that was always really hard for me. And I know I've talked about that on other podcasts, but it was like I felt like I didn't have privacy, and like hallways are really, you know, busy at nighttime. And so I faced the hallway, and so was constantly staring down there and all of the spooky things that were walking back and forth and just having their like nighttime party. So I think in the aspect of my own spirituality, it was really hard to be empowered in it for a really long time. And even as an adult, I had made some comments, you know, about stuff that had happened to Ashley and I. And, you know, my one of my parents was like, "Oh, are you sure you weren't high?" And like looking at me all weird. And I was like, you know, coming from the one who said they got the blankets ripped off of them when there was a ghost in the room, you know, that's really fucking like rude. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, people project a lot about their own fears. And so even on my journey now, I feel like I'm still expanding, I'm still discovering who I am. But I think in the long run, like looking back, I've always had a really strong metaphorical voice and energy. Like I remember carrying around a voice recorder thing that was like a toy, and I would share stories, and I would write plays, and I would perform them, or I would act them out. And you know, I would wake up every morning really grateful as a kid. That I remember, like I was constantly bringing my own energy, my own brightness into my life. And the minute that the morning came, I actually had a sunshine dance. And my sisters always talk about this, but I would like stand on my bed, or you know, be in front of my bed and open the blinds, because the sun would shine straight in and be right on me. And so I would like greet the sun, I would dance, I would say all these things. Clearly kind of a weirdo child, but I absolutely love it, because it was and still is like a part of me. And I think that I was also able to maintain that sense of happiness and gratitude and empowerment in my energy and voice, because I did those things. And even though my environment was a little all over the place, I believed very heavily in the power of my voice. And there were times too when, you know, my mom would tell me, and I posted about this on Instagram, you know, speak up, they can't hear you, where for a while I was a little bit shy. And that really like catalyzed me even just speaking louder, which you don't have to speak louder, but you know, playing with the intonation of my voice, or when there's no voice, or body language and things like that. So at a very young age, I was super curious about how things worked, how people worked, how my energy worked, how I could explore things that really made me happy. So I was kind of like a very independent kid. And I think a lot of that like is now unfolding once more, just more evolved than it was when I was a child, obviously, because I am an adult. And I think like with the dynamics of my parents, you know, both of them kind of being strict in their own way, but mostly my dad. My mom was really involved in the school, like, and being a part of the community, but mostly because of education and making sure that we got the best education that we could. So I think I definitely had to heal parts of me that was like, I need to be the best at in order to have the best, like all these things, you know, it's like, I, I didn't understand it then because we didn't really talk about it. But the example that I had was just like, work hard, run yourself into the ground, and it's for the sake of your children. And like, I haven't been a child, and so I completely don't understand the entire mentality, but I get the thinking behind it. And that, along with, you know, there's lots of jokes about, you know, Black moms and just them looking at you and bringing the fear of God into your life. Like, there's definitely that of like, don't step out of the lines, or, you know, like, mom's gonna say the one thing that's gonna make your soul disappear. So there was definitely a lot of fear. And when you're younger, you're not quite sure what to make of it. It's just normal. And so I think that because I was younger and was a little bit more independent in my thinking, it didn't bother me as much. I was actually really open. Like, you know how kids are sometimes, like, you're like, where the hell did you learn to say that? Or why are you talking like that? Like, that's kind of how I was, like, a little too old for the teeny tiny body that I was in. But as I got older, it was harder to shake those, you know, behaviors that were instilled in me, or beliefs around being perfect and not stepping outside the lines and all sorts of things in order to survive. I'm doing air quotes, but at home, I would say generally our voices were pretty elevated. Like, my mom definitely made space when she could and when she knew how to allow us to voice our opinions. And even when I think about when my mother and my father got divorced, I again wasn't the biggest fan of my father, but I would not like to go hang out with him. Like, I enjoyed spending time with my mom. I just, you know, we just didn't get along well, like, at all. And I remember that I would have to get on the phone, and it was like court ordered for me to have to say to him on the phone that I didn't want to go over there because, you know, if my mom did it, it was like she was speaking for me, and like all these things. It's a really long story, but I think that was also where it was like, one, growing up too fast, definitely. And the second one of like the power of my voice and saying what I want. And like, I distinctly remember my mom being like, you know, what do you want to do? Like, it's completely up to you. And I would pick up the phone and be like, you know, I don't want to see you today, and hang up. And, you know, I definitely could have been a lot more graceful, but I was also a child who didn't know how to regulate their emotions. So there's that. But I think I've had a very unique childhood where I was put into situations where I was able to test out my voice and test out my power, even in middle school, and my mom having us be involved in community events. So I was constantly around people, helping, speaking, you know, getting really good grades, and like speaking in front of the school, and like all sorts of stuff. So I think I developed like a very high articulation for what I wanted. And it wasn't until later in my life that it really got harder. Because it's easy to carry, you know, some traumas from childhood maybe until you're teen. But then anything past that, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, which is why I always talk about the importance of healing your generational trauma, because it goes way further back than you know. And I'm just talking about my childhood. Like, I can't really talk about my ancestors because it's not my story to share, even though, you know, sometimes I have dreams and things. But I know that I carry their energy too. So, yeah, it can be hard to really discover how your own empowerment works and what your energy looks like until you really start clearing out all of the trauma from the experiences that you've lived. And while I was a child, I did notice that, since my sisters were older, when they started to move out of the house or get certain jobs, like I definitely became lonelier because they were like my crew, and that made it hard. And I think that's when my voice really shrank. Like I didn't, like, my mom was so busy and I didn't have my sisters. So I kind of lost my example of what empowerment looked like, or like independent thinking looked like, for a while. So I became very internal with the way that I was speaking, like really spending a lot of time in my head versus saying things and like really having fun. Like I don't even remember when I stopped doing the sunshine dance, to be honest. But yeah, I think I was definitely empowered with my family there, but then I definitely learned how to be empowered without them as I grew older. But it was definitely challenging. And there was a time when, which I've talked about before, if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, living in a shelter with my mom. And I really lost my voice during that time. And I really do think it's because, my sisters weren't there. And I was also not really supposed to talk about it. And so if you can't really talk about a situation that you're in, you like start to hide your pain because you're supposed to act like it doesn't really exist. And so I think as a child, that was really hard for me because the hugest part of my life I couldn't talk about, even, with my friends. And so that also instilled in me that certain times in my life like are shameful, is what I thought, because I was a child. It's shameful. I didn't really understand the whole thing around why we couldn't talk about it, but I know there were other reasons other than like, like I don't want people to know like it was bigger than that, because there are also court things going on. But like it it just was hard, like, and because we didn't really talk about it that much, or from my memory, because you know how memory works, um it made it a lot harder to talk about other things, or even to talk about that situation down the road, because I had never talked about it and had never given myself permission to talk about it. So I would say that that really made it more difficult for my empowerment journey, for sure, because anything that felt similar to that situation, I would kind of close off, and carried that with me for a very long time. And I will be sharing more stories that I found, things that I have never shared before, even with my family, over these next 6 episodes, because as I was, writing this out, I was realizing that, yeah, there's still some things about my life that I haven't shared. And I know it's because of certain things that have happened to me as a child. And like I always tell people, like, your generational healing journey it's not like a one-stop shop. it's it's a lifetime. Like, it evolves and it changes, and it's complex, and sometimes it's easy, but usually it's complex, and sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it's joyful. It's a lot of different things, and the world is evolving. So our needs and our healing of generational trauma is going to evolve. And us just being in a global place, like, things are always happening. So I don't I don't think there's ever going to be a time when, like, generational trauma just goes away. Maybe we'll call it something else, but I think just having a practice to, like, really allow yourself to open up and heal and be honest and be your true self, so you can get to a place of happiness and heal when you need to heal or want to heal, would be the future, is kind of how I'm seeing it. But, like, really normalizing your own mental health and safety, and joy of those around you. So I think, just to like sum it up, like when I reflect on it, my empowerment as a child definitely had its ups and downs, but I know that the voice that I have today, my metaphorical voice, like, is because of that young child who was very like exploring, like love to explore, or like love to say no because they could, or like create because they could, and just enjoyed energy is a huge, huge part of me today. Like, it 100% is why I am the way I am today. And saying no to people, and saying no to my family, and saying yes to myself, or saying yes to my family when I really feel like saying yes to my family. And it's so connected. Like, there's like, as I was looking at my own timeline, and I'm sure you can do the same, like when your voice or your energy was the highest is probably going to echo when your energy is the highest now. So, like, my business and starting my own product line and creating all these things like I would like to create when I was younger, they're gonna shadow each other. They're gonna echo each other. So you start to realize how your empowerment journey kind of evolved, and what was really hitting you to like take away your power. And as a child, like, it's your environment, because you don't know what the hell is going on. And I would never blame a child for anything that they've kind of experienced, because they're learning, they're regulating, they're growing, they're expanding, and we're their caretakers. So I was a product of my environment, and it shaped my empowerment today. But I still say I came into this earth like empowered. I swear to you, I think all kids are. I think that their environment kind of dictates who they become, but there are some kids who are naturally shy, and all of that, and it doesn't mean they're not empowered. Like, shyness doesn't, like, and maybe I like misspoke, but like, shyness doesn't mean they're not empowered whatsoever. And I think that was the biggest thing too, of looking on my timeline and realizing like what empowered really meant to me, and empowered meaning to me today of me being my authentic self and doing the things that I love. Like, I bring the initiative to do that, and I do that because I want to do it, versus doing things I don't want to do and not sharing my authenticity with the world is, being disempowered. So I love that you all brought this up in terms of wanting to know my empowerment journey, because I think it's important that we all begin to talk about it and what we faced all along the way. So I am going to close out with that. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation. It was really great for me. I have 5 more coming your way that are going to definitely still shed some light on your own empowerment journey, my own, and things that we can really start to reflect on. And this can be your invitation to do your own inner child work, do your own generational healing. And again, if you ever need help, like, please, please, please head over to my Instagram and, book a soul activation chat. Like, we can talk about your journey. We can get you where you want to go. I saw someone the other day on TikTok say that they're at the point where they're crying, but then it shuts off because it hurts so bad. And I remember what that was like, and have faced my own things now as an entrepreneur, where some stuff is just so painful that you can't even bring yourself to create space for yourself to heal. And so if you want, I invite you to book a soul activation chat, and we can just talk about it. And I think it's important that we create more spaces where we can have honest conversations. So this is my invitation to you. And I hope that you accept it. And I hope that you know that the journey is really beautiful on the other side. I will absolutely say that, because so much has changed about my life. And looking back, like I wouldn't change anything for the world. Like I absolutely would not. So I am here for you if you want to have the extra conversations. And if you're wanting a little bit more of a deep dive where we do that deep inner child work, I offer breakthrough sessions. It's not on my Instagram. So if you want one, they're 222 for 90 minutes. And it's a deep quest. It's a really deep meditative state to meet your inner child, to speak with them, to heal. And we do breath work, and I coach you through the entire experience so you can feel some relief at the end of that call. So if you are wanting to do that, send me a message and just ask if you can have a breakthrough session. And what I can actually do is, if I can figure it out, which I'm pretty sure I can, add the breakthrough session link to the description of this episode if you are interested, because it's really important to connect with your inner child, to reflect on your childhood. So much of our happiness depends on it, like literally everything. I would like to say 100%. So do the work, and you will absolutely see the benefits. And if you're wanting something a little bit longer, you can come join me in More Than Worthy. It's 6 months. It's intentional. I kind of wish it was a year, to be honest, because it takes time. So I'm thinking of, extending it a little bit longer for some people who are currently in More Than Worthy, because it's all about deep healing. You get coaching and, allowing your generational trauma to come forward and to be able to heal it in a safe space and be held, right? Like you don't have to do this alone. I am right there by your side the entire time, to help you find your authenticity again. That's been hiding away between the pain and the sorrow and probably confusion and not really knowing what's going on, and to really help you make peace with your past and create the future that you actually are desiring. So it's a really, really beautiful journey. So if you are interested in doing that as well, I will drop the link to apply for that. I always have 3 to 4 spots open each month, and then I'm actually going to start doing 2 scholarship spots per month. So that'll be at a discounted price if you want to put that in the application as well, or make a comment about it. Even if you apply, you're not obligated to pay right away. It's just you apply and then you book a chat and we can talk about it just to make sure that all is aligned. But I'm sure that if you're called to it, if you feel like you're ready to take that generational healing quest, then I would definitely apply and book that call, and we can just have a heart to heart and chat about it and get you where you want to be, so you can feel safe and happy and loved and held, and create the future that you want. So those are available to you. And if you want to focus on your, healing your money trauma, my partner and I have a program called Wealthy AF that starts in July. So just drop a comment somewhere on social media and I will send you the link for that. And that's really about tapping into the infinite abundance within you and to help you have a better relationship with money so you can hold the frequency, which I'm going to talk about more with my partner on some episodes. So get excited for that. We're going to talk about our own money journeys and what it's really looked like and how it's evolved to where it is today, and things that we wish we would have done differently and things that we've learned that we just want to share with people that we think will be really helpful for everyone to hear, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a person of color who, hasn't had family members who have talked to you about money. And it's so important because the world revolves around money, and you need to be able to have a certain frequency with it. One, just to survive on a basic level, but 2, if you want to have savings, if you want to, retire eventually or take care of your family and to not worry about money and know that you can create it for yourself whenever you're desiring it. Like, this is what this program is all about. So send me a message, or I will drop a link in the description as well. And that is it from me. So again, head over to my bio or click the links in the description if a breakthrough session works for you, or more than worthy, or wealthy AF. So thank you all again for showing up for yourself and showing up for me. I hope that you found value in this discussion, and I look forward to sharing the rest of the episodes with you. And that is a wrap, my friends.
Hey, if you're ready to ascend to happiness and live the life you've always wanted, join me in my Empowered Living Facebook group for socially conscious healers, witches, and spirituals, and sign up to get my free Empowered 5 Practices to Ascended Happiness guide. It's helped others expand their consciousness and soar beyond sight, sound, and imagination in just one day. It's the catalyst you need to embrace your magic and change the world. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the group next time.